So, folks, let's see what this Gavin Newsom fellow is up to with his most recent podcast guest, shall we? Somehow it's been like 4 days and he's already on episode number 4 of his podcast. And, I confess every single guest he has had on has been increasingly terrible. And he started at Charlie Kirk, he was already at almost rock bottom. But today I think he outdid himself. Okay, today
Fact,
he
on
he
Terrapod,
had a guy on the show you all might recognize if you are at all familiar with Gamergate, Donald Trump's 2016 campaign, or a recent Nazi Sieg Heil salute given at CPAC. Um, Gavin Newsom saw that man and said, "I want to put him on my podcast so I can vigorously agree with him." And this is a guy who wants to be president, apparently. Doesn't he have a state to run? Why run a state when you can run a podcast? Listen to how epic and oh my god, this is gonna appeal to the yeah. If we can't have our own Joe Rogan of the left, we're gonna make our own, and his name's gonna be Gavin Newsom. This guy sucks so hard. All right, let's just.
this is Gavin to sort of, go back a little bit.
Still doing the weird little hand thing I made fun of him for last time.
And talk about your history, a little bit about your motivations and where you see this country and, for that matter, the world going. But it's impossible not to note the world that we're living in relationship to everything happening with the markets, everything happening with the with tariffs, everything happening with CR and a potential government shutdown.
Don't be giving tariff stink eye. I don't want to start off with you giving it stink eye already.
We'll stress.
I'm a tariff guy. I'm a tariff guy.
I appreciate.
Man, I look at how much fun they have. They're already chortling back and forth. What good fun Gavin Newsom has with his Nazi opponents across the aisle. Come on, man. Here, let's skip ahead because I don't really care about these niceties.
Remember, in the working class, and at the end of the day, we had allies that were taking advantage of it. Give me a second on this. If you take the rim of the Eurasian landmass, you got Western Europe, the Persian Gulf, the Gulf Emirates, Middle East, then you've got the Straits of Malacca, the South China Sea, and then up to Korea and Japan. Those 4 nodes, we have commercial relationships, trade deals, capital markets integration, right, some cultural interface, but it's it's an American security guarantee. This is how, whether it's NATO or the Middle East or South China Sea or up with Japan and Korea, we have combat troops there. We have 150,000 troops deployed today in, I think, 115 countries. This is one of the reasons people talk about foreign aid with USAID, which I'm against a lot of this stuff going on, but it pales in comparison to what we're underwriting for countries that were upside down on every trade deal. Our trade.
Man, it's real cool to see Steve Bannon advocate for us to bring all of our military back to the United States to direct fascism inward. It's super cool of him to do that.
Deficit in I think in January alone was a record trade deficit. I think it was $100 billion.
Yep.
So not just do we have budget deficits, we have trade deficits that are kind of inextricably linked because we've gutted all the manufacturing jobs. We've offshored those. Right. And I think Trump's geoeconomic strategy is a massive reshoring process. And I think you're seeing.
Yeah, that's all he's doing. He's reshoring the profits, aka tanking the economy. Wonderfully done. Masterful gambit, sir.
This now, and I might note, and I don't want to take a cheap shot.
I really want to hear how Gavin Newsom responds to this.
A lot of those traditionally would go back to California, but they're going to Arizona and Texas because I think they're looking at red states now as having lower regulation, lower taxes, and people are going there. And I think this is going to change the demographic change in the United States as you have Trump's reshoring come back to the United States.
Well, and so,
Gavin Newsom, are you going to respond at all to the fact that Steve Bannon just talked about a massive demographic shift that he is supportive of? I wonder what kind of massive demographic shift Steve Bannon, the guy who Sieg Heiled a week ago, might be in favor of.
To be fair,
that's tied to unwinding the post-war international rules-based order. We're going to tell people that, hey, we're not going to be everywhere. Kids from
Yeah, you know what people really want to do? They wake up every morning and they look out at the world and they say, "We want to undo the rules-based international order that, you know, largely reduced, global conflict." Yeah, that we want to wind that back. You remember when Germany was just a bunch of squabbling, warring states against each other? We want to go back to that. That was ideal. Remember the massive triggering of different diplomatic alliances and that led to World War One? We want to go back to that. That was good, actually.
California.
Wait, is my governor platforming Steve Bannon? Yes. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I didn't properly introduce him. Guys, this is Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's 2016 campaign strategist, um, neo-Nazi supporter, January 6er. Um, he's a guy who has been supporting the destruction of the American state for the last, I don't know, 30 years. He really took off around Gamergate, and he was editor-in-chief of Breitbart for a while. He's basically one of the worst people on the planet, like just on a moral level. Maybe not like on an influence level, but on a moral level. He's just a bad guy. Yeah, avid Mein Kampf enthusiast. This is the Democratic Republican, or sorry, Democratic Republican, Democratic governor of California on his new podcast inviting a Nazi. Because basically, Gavin Newsom is the embodiment of the third way ideology. It's the neoliberal ideology that seeks to kill liberalism and replace it with what we see right now, oligarchy. You know, that is end stage capitalism shit.
Are not going to be on carrier battle groups. You know, guys deployed from San Diego and kids that live in the Inland Empire are not going to be deployed in the Red Sea with two carrier battle groups that keep the Suez Canal open so that Europe can get, can get energy resources from the Persian Gulf. I think those days are kind of over. We'll pick and choose as we pull back.
Yeah, because it really doesn't benefit us at all to, keep the Suez Canal relatively open. One of the things about these guys that is so insidious and you have to really understand about what they're saying is that when they're talking about pulling back away from this rules-based international order, what it essentially means is that instead of us having kind of mutually beneficial relationships with other countries around the world, or at least even on paper, mutually beneficial relationships, what they want to replace it instead is that other countries fear the United States and United States power and retaliation and thus obey us as if they were territories or as if they were um you know uh paying protection money to a mafia don. That is effectively what they want to have happen. They think that mutually beneficial relationships are actually a sign of weakness and that instead um we should just use our power, our force should be self-evident enough that they capitulate to us. Carbonator, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I have literally never said any words to Carbon, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But go away, please. Um, yeah, it is the end of American imperialism, but like in an incredibly destructive way that is going to get hundreds of thousands of people killed, if not millions. Anyway, let's continue platforming Steve Bannon.
I worry about the nature of our broader influence. But I want to step back. There was a lot that influenced a lot of those companies you said that are coming back to the United States of America. Do you not agree that the industrial policies of the Biden administration, as it relates to the infrastructure bill, aspects of the IRA, aspects of the chips?
Who even is Carbon? Twitch streamer I raid into sometime at the end of stream because like people in my community seem to like him. I don't know.
And Science Act, were they not determinative from an industrial worker center
yeah, they want
policy
vassals. That's a good way of
were
putting
they
it.
not also influential in the decision for people to begin to quote unquote reshore or make unprecedented
they might have been at the beginning, but it was President Trump. They announced during President Trump's term. If President Trump had not won this election, and you just had Kamala
You don't think
Harris,
those companies?
No,
I mean,
I do
there
not.
were record, but there was record investments in coming back during the Biden years.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Biden in the entire 4 years.
Oh my God, this is like watching an old man slap fight, but like they aren't even fighting; they're just like agreeing with each other in a weird fashion here.
We don't want that to happen here in the United States.
No, I don't. We're on the same page on that. It's just how we achieve the goal. And by the way, 100% aligned on industrial policy, bringing manufacturing.
Man, it's so cool how Gavin Newsom is constantly reiterating how he 100% aligns with the far right. You know, you're right. It is dull and incredibly gross, and every single episode of this that comes out makes me increasingly sure that Gavin Newsom is one of the politicians that was present at the Third Way retreat that leaked earlier this month. I think that like this is patently obvious. Like he is trying to invite these high profile conservative guests on his show, and then he is agreeing with them on numerous points and not pushing back on them at all because he wants to set himself up as this centrist candidate in the 2028 election, and it's just not going to work. I do not believe the American people are so cooked that the angry energy we are seeing coming from angry liberal wine moms who are like 70 years old is going to be placated by this clown agreeing with the people they hate more than with more intensity than 1,000 suns. You know, I don't think this is going to appeal to anyone outside of like corporate Wall Street lobbyists, you know? Not Punky Gal. The thing is, this is not boilerplate Dem strategy. This is actually like so far beyond the pale. He's literally talking to Nazis and agreeing with them on his show. Boilerplate Dem strategy would be to avoid this like the plague. He's leaning into the worst impulses of the Democratic Party. It is unironically disgusting in the extreme. And I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to prevent this absolute scumfuck from ever wielding power as a president. Hell, if I ever hear about him running for like Senate or as a House representative, I'm going to do everything I can to like direct people against his
Reminder
to
for
support his
chat:
opponents.
Gavin Newsom's family, such as his father and grandfather, were family friends of the Gettys of Getty Oil. They were the trust fund accountants. Our timeline is cooked rise rot.
True. Midnight, Null Knight, thank you for resubscribing. And yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, Black Rose, PCS. Like, this is literal political career suicide, and he thinks he's being the smartest boy in the class. It's crazy. John Fetterman will vote yes for the Republican CR bill. Yeah, he announced that like 2 days ago. Like the second it was clear it was going to the Senate, John Fetterman was like, yeah, I'm going to vote yes. But either Ron Paul or Rand Paul, I always get them confused, is going to vote no. So like 7 Democrats still need to cross over. Can we try to get California a new governor? We certainly can.
manufacturing back, that's worker centered, 100%. And by the way, I say that as governor of the largest manufacturing state in America, a state that has more corporate headquarters, God bless, forgive me, than any other state in America, more than we've had in over a decade, and that dominates in the innovative space in terms of scientists, engineers.
God, stop sucking your own dick, Gavin. It's gross.
Researchers,
hang on. You've allowed, but hang on a second. Hang on a second. You've also allowed, and
Yes.
you've also allowed the oligarchy of Silicon Valley.
Well, let's talk about
Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is an apartheid state.
Right.
Okay, within you're one of the most progressive leaders in this country, right? We disagree probably on everything on the cultural side, but you're one of the leaders. You're one of the leaders, elected officials of the most progressive state, and you're the leader of that element of the Democratic Party.
What do you call it? Techno-feudalism. Techno-feudalism. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, here's what I mean.
Yeah, don't have like the guy on your show that coined the term techno-feudalism. Just ask the Nazi to waffle about it for like 10 minutes uninterrupted while you nod along.
Is that two things happen around 2008 to 2010.
And you get, by the way, that's sort of the teapot, that's the Wall Street.
Goldman Sachs got basically, you don't hear a lot of talking about net carbon zero when this thing needs 10 times more power.
On the data center side.
Yeah. In the thing, because it's kind of brute force computing.
So it has resuscitated the nuclear question, which is interesting. So
turn over the Lawrence Livermore Weapons Lab in California, Sandia.
Why doesn't President Trump, the leader of the movement, Trumpism, without Trump, I mean, maybe it's MAGA, it's the work you're doing in that populist base, but why isn't he pushing back? He brings someone in from Treasury, puts a Commerce Secretary that only reinforces this.
First off, at Treasury, I think you're seeing a very smart analysis about M&A and about the oligarchs. I think, look, with Gil Slater, Andrew Ferguson, I mean, these are
like the thing about Steve Bannon is he knows how to pretend to be a populist. Steve Bannon knows how to like at least appeal or pretend to care about working class interests, which is why he bamboozles so many people into like watching more of his show than they should, right? But if you actually listen and understand to what he's saying, he's a fucking Nazi, bro. He's a fucking Nazi. It's just like it should shame so many people in the Democratic Party that they get outmaneuvered by this guy,
one notch down and maybe not as well known as Lena Khan, but they're in the same school of thought of neo-Brandeisian, of this of concern about the concentration, the tremendous concentration of private power. I think, and President Trump's working through this right now. Look, all these guys just became, their Damascene moment was 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 5th of November when Pennsylvania was called for Trump. Once that, all of them, Zuckerberg, all these moved. Guys, they became MAGA. Zuckerberg started growing the hair, 38 loans, I think 38.
So what do you seriously want him to take over the Starlink, to take over the FAA and the air traffic control system?
Here's
the hell is that?
Here's what, listen. I laid at this concept.
Yeah, just keep asking them open questions so they can like fill your show with their propaganda, Gavin. Wonderful play. Brilliant maneuver, sir.
At CPAC in 17, that it was going to be, populist economics and economic nationalism, America First national security. And the third was the deconstruction of the administrative state.
Right.
What Elon Musk has done, and I think this is the engineer, the better angels of Elon, that engineer's brain. I think it kicked in when he saw the strategy of how we actually win in building a coalition of working class people. He supported that in President Trump. I think now, and this is why I think he jumped on it, he sees that we have an apparatus, and I think you'd be the first to admit, the administrative state that's kind of anti-democratic. It's there, and I don't care if AOC.
It's literally not. It's literally not anti-democratic. It's designed to be apolitical. The administrative state is not a political organ. It does what it is told. It just does what it is told as defined by Congress and as defined by the courts and as motivated by the federal government. It's it is the vehicle you drive. If you start dismantling the vehicle you drive as it's in motion, what happens?
AOC or Gavin Newsom or Bernie Sanders walks into the Oval Office, President of the United States, the deep state and the apparatus is going to do what they're going to do. They're going to look at you as just passing through.
No, we refer to it in non-pejorative, but there's a clay layer of bureaucracy, and you're right, unaccountable folks making a lot of decisions, and I don't think that's wrong. But you're.
Oh my God. Okay, we're done with this. We're done with this trash. Dude's literally sitting there nodding along with like Steve Bannon talking about deep state agents in the anti-democratic bureaucratic administration. And like that's how the fuck that's how this all works. That's how government works. It's the bureaucracy makes it work. You know, like China had an empire that lasted over 1,000 years. And it was because of the bureaucracy that was able to like function and keep everything running. Rome, empire that lasted 1,000 years. Bureaucracy kept the entire thing running. That shit's important. If you get rid of it, nothing works. God damn it. Yeah, the military isn't democratic, but I don't hear balking at that by MAGA. Exactly. That's how Steve Bannon is full of shit. Gavin Newsom is literally to the right of my Republican parents. Yeah. This guy is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I've tried watching like off stream a full episode of this show, and it is it's unbearable. You know? It is unbearable and just painful and cringe inducing.